Not just the young people, but people in general would actually misunderstood the 92 consensus.
Do you think you can trust him?
Well, as far as cross-strait relations, you have to. I don't think he's pushing for unification. He has to maintain the basic relations.
What you've said is leave military service at 4 months, 2.5% of GDP is sufficient. So it suggests that your approach to deterrence is not really to go any further. You think just really focus on other elements?
Do you know why I believe that way? Because no matter how much you defend yourself, you can never fight a war with the mainland. And you can never win. They're too large, too much stronger than us. So we should use non-used military means to reduce the tension. And this is something the people of Taiwan would like to have, the people of the mainland would like to have. So if you always believe of a strong defense, it's all right, but in the situation of Taiwan, it would be very dangerous to our people.
Well, isn't the point with Taiwan's military expenditure is that Taiwan would need to be in a position where it can fend off a Chinese attack for long enough that then the United States, maybe Japan, come and help?
That is too optimistic. The mainland China military is much larger than us. And if you know the RAND Corporation of the United States, they have done a exercise of hypothetical warfare 18 times between U.S. and mainland China. All 18 times, U.S. lost.
So it sounds a somewhat defeatist attitude in terms of approach to the military that I'm hearing from you, that you feel that deterrence is almost impossible?
It's very difficult. And we should not put all our fate in defense. We have to use peaceful means to dialogue with the mainland so that we could reduce the tension. So, I don't know whether you know, I visited the mainland early this year, and which has been quite successful.
Last year, 2023.
Yes,
yeah.
and so I think, so we try to reduce the potential reason for conflict. And instead of building up our military, just to wait for a potential conflict with the mainland, that's very dangerous. People will die.
If China does mount an attack, do you believe the United States would come to Taiwan's aid?
That's the question we ask every day, and didn't get an answer. I don't think the U.S. were directly involved. And they will try everything to avoid it, because if they get involved and have a face-to-face conflict with the mainland, that could lead to nuclear war.
You met Xi Jinping himself when you were president in 2015. Do you think he's a man Taiwan can work with?
It depends on how you work with him. I think yes.
How should Taiwan work with him? As after 8 years of your presidency, a lot of things changed. A lot of people say Xi Jinping, he changed himself.
Well, actually, it's very important of the concept of 92 consensus, one China respective interpretations, which was reached in 1996. And that gives the two sides the opportunity to maintain the situation without having to go to war. And we understand very, very well, if the war ever breaks out across Taiwan Strait, it will be disastrous. Nobody will win.
Yeah, that's what I mean by this change, because in 2019, when he talks about 1992 consensus, he said it's the consensus that will be used to push for unification. And that's what he said, right? Like a lot of people, or like even people from KMT think that it's more and more skeptical to negotiate under this consensus. And it also becomes more and more unpopular here in Taiwan, especially among young people.
Well, I think I think not just the young people, but people in general would actually misunderstood the 92 consensus. During my term of service as president, 92 consensus is the very important political foundation between the two sides, and that served us well. We not only never have a situation to go to war, but we expand our peaceful contact in almost every aspect of life. And this is probably the best way to do. If you only think about war, conflict, and so you build a lot of weapons and make a strategy oriented against to war, I think that's not the best strategy for Taiwan at all.
Is Xi Jinping a dictator, as Joe Biden put it that way?
Well, it depends on how you defend it, but that term doesn't mean not very important in the cross-strait relations, because we have to create a situation that we can deal with each other peacefully without having to use force, and that is probably more important than any other rhetoric you have.
So you think you can trust him?
Well, as far as cross-strait relations, you have to.
Mm-hmm. But then again, like for this New Year speech, you talked about unification is historical necessity, and then so from his side, he's keep pushing like the process of unification, and under the circumstance, you still think that's.
I don't think he's pushing for unification. You know, of course they want China's unification, that is for sure. But he also understands very well that unification cannot be achieved overnight. It will take many, many years. It has to get the consent of the people. So when I went to the mainland early this year and met with the officials, I told them that for the relations between Taiwan and the mainland, I think it's very important to look at two factors. One is peaceful. Another one is democratic. Unification is something that our Constitution says. So it's actually acceptable to Taiwan.